it's 2026 already. Can you believe that?
Oh, it's a crazy start in
I
terms of
don't
what's
believe that.
happening out there.
Yeah, yeah, and that
Yeah,
too.
it's gonna be a crazy year.
It just keeps escalating. It keeps getting more and more just ridiculous,
Unhinged.
Yeah,
It's
unhinged,
getting more unhinged, man.
getting more and more like
Because
this is not the real timeline.
yeah, it's like anything could happen at this point because a lot of boundaries are being pushed and water tested and hey, who knows what will happen, right? It's this kind of domino effects that's happening with the overall economic situation all over the world, and that causes all these chain events, right? Because everything is connected with everything else. Um, and so you see all these kind of Gen Z protests, for example, is the kind of just this human desire for change, essentially, right? Because when things are happening the way that it was for a long time, has a lot of its kind of problematic sides, and if these things are not fixed, eventually people had enough, right? Because it's all about survive, right? Survival, and then at the end of the day, when these people in those countries are feeling like, well, the system is so screwed up that it won't work anymore. So naturally, people,
Yeah,
you know,
but you know what this makes me think about is that never stops essentially. That
same
because
thing
we've
all
had
over.
it always keeps the same thing happening. Because imagine this: say you are this disadvantaged population, right? And you're like, yeah, let's get those guys out of the. Okay, yeah, so the guys are out. The new guys are in,
Yeah,
and the new guys
it's
are
just
exactly the same as old guys because that's human nature. When you get the
yeah,
goodies, you were like, "Oh, I like the goodies. I want to retain those, and I want to stay in power." And all these other guys, keep them away from me. Like, what makes anything different from for any leader? Like, he would need to be a saint. He would need to be a certified Jesus, or Buddha, to be like, "Yeah, I'm good. I'm just like for the
yeah.
people." But you never see those guys. So where are those guys? You know?
That's the structure of power. And in a way, it's kind of like this kind of idea that power corrupts, right? Because in that structure, it's a zero-sum game, and
That
everybody's
means that
playing that.
the whole system needs to change. That this doesn't
Yeah,
work. Like,
the mentalities are not there yet. That people have, this kind of selfish nature to humans, I guess, because each one has this like you would need to rewire your entire point of view, mindset, and that has to happen for everybody for
it's
it to
not
be.
just that. So it's you can do that, which is hasn't been possible so far in the whole of the history of the humans that we've seen. But the other things that you can change at least is the system of governance. So all this the whole one king to rule them all thing, it doesn't work. It just doesn't work because it's always one kingdom against the other, right? It's the guys on top having everything and ruling everybody, and they're not having enough foresight to understand what everybody needs. So something else needs to happen. It needs to go back to like people living in small tribes and small communes, and that way they have more power in their hands and they know what they need, and they're more on the ground. They're more present to the reality and environment they actually participate in. But if you have a giant country with like millions of people who have no access to anything that people upstairs doing, and people upstairs are so far removed from people on the bottom floor, there's no communication. It doesn't work. Like the decisions that people make on the top, they're completely disconnected from the reality that people living at the bottom. Which means it's that the vertical structures of this governance, they don't work. We shouldn't be creating the such huge structures. But then what's the alternative? Go back to monkey.
Well, even
Just
monkeys
simplify.
have their structures too, right?
Yeah,
Um,
but they're not that huge. That's what makes them actually workable. Like they don't have the problems that we have. They have ways to manage their problems, and everything it can work out. The big alpha that comes in is actually big. So it's actually based on the actual reality that everybody can agree on. Yeah, this one big monkey. Okay, yeah, we don't want to mess with him. Let him do whatever he needs to do around here. But it's not like that one big monkey can conquer the whole jungle and go like, yeah, everybody now reports to me now, because the big monkey doesn't have the nuclear weapons. So it's
Yeah,
limited.
well,
This is what humanity needs. Like every individual ego needs a natural limitation. Because if there's no limitation, we've seen what happens then.
yeah, and then but then you do see some more political structures where, say, namely democracies, where it has its own inefficiencies as well. The kind of bickering that happens where nobody can make a decision because, nobody wants
No,
to be stepped on.
there's still
And
like too tall of a structure, right? The democracy, whichever, like none of the political structures that we've seen, they're all too cumbersome essentially, and they're all exploitable. They're all exploitable by people who get into power, who get the influence, because that's what people do. Like if you think about yourself, and if you get like in a workplace, everybody has the same thing. They're trying to like assess what's going on, who is the
yeah,
key player, what they can do, right? How to position themselves. We all do this. We all play this little game of how to gain power, whether you like it or not, consciously and subconsciously, because nobody likes to be powerless. But the only way, like we had one of the early episodes, right? We were actually doing a lot of little cool discoveries about the power and the psychology of it, and but it was quite a revelation to me that it's a whole world out there of power, and whether you're conscious of it or not, uh, people are playing the games. They
because
definitely like the power games.
and the power games happens even in everyday life. It's not just the political, situation. It's basically everyday life. You're playing this game of you sizing people up, right? Stranger you meet, your coworkers, your boss, or, it's all a structure of, okay, like you were saying, exactly, like you're assessing, okay, where do I stand in this group environment, right? And a different group will have different standings and you will act differently. People will act differently. So it's just kind of how it's basically this is what you perceive in the world, right? It naturally happens because people see these, oh, okay, I see the difference. I see the difference that I have against that person, where are we standing relatively? And for your own kind of I just say whether it's survival or benefit of your individual as an individual benefiting yourself, then you try to play this game of trying to get more from other people, whether that's resources, cooperation, or anything else that you get. Because human beings have to live in a society and they have to interact with other people and they're getting things from other people, right? They're exchanging values, so to speak, with other people. And so that itself is reflected roughly by the valuation that we have, the system valuation, right? Which is anything from the economy, the stock market, the whatever. Everything has a price, right? And that's just uh, one measurement that people use to measure, okay, what's the relative position of a, like you would evaluate like a company, how much money this company is gonna, be worth, right? It's a number, but then that number is kind of really hard to say why is it that number. It's kind of almost like you just make it up in a way. Like, yes, there are some actual kind of tangible things you measure that against. I'm sure there are ways to calculate all these values, right? But at the end of the day, there is a number attached to it. And it seems like everybody is just trying to up the numbers, right? But the system has its own limits too. Just like right now, we're in this economic slump, and that just means people are not spending as much because the economy just kind of is slowed down. Different aspects of it affected by the world events, by weather even, and anything else that goes into this complex system of every single there's so many metrics. They're like, what's your country's output? What this group of people are doing? Are they focused on import, export? Are they focused on manufacturing? Are they focused on like resource extractions and things like that, right? So each country has its own advantages and disadvantages, and they're trying to balance that out and trying to, So yeah, just like what happened in Venezuela, right? Right now, with the U.S. basically staking essentially a claim, sort of, okay, we want this to be more beneficial for us, and for us to do that, we have to change the government there, right? What's the ramification of that? Who knows, right? But that is been done, had been done, and then you see the power structure within that country shifts, right? All the people shift alliances, they change their stance, and now that in this case, the U.S. has more influence over Venezuela, so they will be more friendly to the US. They will be making deals. They will be making more money. There is that relationship being coerced in a way, but and that will shift everything else. All the other players would counteract this because everybody's playing that game. So yeah, everybody's playing the power game, whether small or big. But it seems natural that people do this because when you see the difference, you know where you stand. So then if your kind of life goal is to improve yourself, is to make your life better, then you're gonna have to engage with these numbers. You have to engage with these aspects of the environment, and you have to manipulate it, right? You have to manipulate your environment for your to your own advantage, and everybody's doing that at the same time. So you're gonna have cases of stepping on other people's toes. And that could be just from inconvenience all the way to war. That's just kind of how humans are trying to stake claim to things, right? Whether that's land, whether that's resources, whether that's benefits, that's whether that's money, income, any sort of um, these things that people do. So it's it's so it's so difficult. I mean, it's weird thinking about it because if you don't think about this kind of meta perspective, then everything, yes, it makes sense. Okay, you go to a job, you get money that you get paid by this company, and you can live your life without thinking much about it. But if you start thinking about, oh, this is how we're doing this thing, it becomes kind of weird when you start thinking about, oh, this is all the song and dance that I'm doing for this objective, and then vis-a-vis anything else in your life, like your desires, your goals, and it's sort of it's just almost weird seeing yourself in a movie, but then you see the camera
Yeah,
as well.
exactly. It's like you're seeing yourself playing all these roles in games, right? Me, this is why it's so awkward because I can't be aware of it and participate in it at the same time. Like this
Yes.
is why none of the like career ladder climbing stuff, or getting into the big club type of thing, never really I never gravitated towards that because it just feels like fake or something, even though it's absolutely what everybody is doing and it's definitely pays off and stuff. But the fact that you have to be there with other people and you have to rub shoulders and you have to like figure out, okay, what does this guy want and how you can, play along with them, it's all you have to figure out people's interests. You have to make sure you align your interests with those who is in power. All these actions and all these extra mm, thinking. It's like it feels like I don't know how to describe it. Like what's the word for it? But it doesn't feel right to me. That's the only thing I know for sure because every time I've been in those situations, I feel like I don't want to be there. You know what I mean? Like if I don't know if that's because uh, uh, you subconsciously feel something, or you just too lazy to participate in those games. But I've never been interested. It's
Because you
so
see through the
strange.
game. It's the reason why it's the same thing as how I rationalize for myself. For example, I don't date. I don't really these days, like I don't really engage with that. Because to me, from what I have seen, it just seems like you know, it's all like what you're saying, even with the job and the career, it's like it's all fake. It's all kind of like, oh, everybody's just playing nice to do this thing where they're not being honest about some of the objectives or stuff like that. And the same way
Yeah.
with dating for me, it's almost like, well, yeah, everybody just playing this fancy game, and we all know what each player really wants, right? If you're smart enough, you know what each party wants. But then we still have to make it like this, almost like a dress up, or just kind of like playing this dramatic thing,
Yeah.
as if the real objective, like as if you don't know the real objective, right? But you know it.
Yeah, it's
You
this
know what
play
you
play
want.
pretend that
Yeah.
bothers me.
So that's
Um,
kind of, to me, is how that's how I feel about it, and that's the
but
same as I would for jobs
the
and things
problem with
that
this approach is that, like, what's the alternative?
it's you're not having enough fun then, right? If you do this, then you're not having the fun. But people who do pretend, or who can pretend, or who doesn't even know the difference, will be like they just engaging it for the sake, or for, I don't know, if they don't think too much about it, then they wouldn't be aware, and you will still be engaged in that whole, because it's all about mentality, right? What you understand about the world, what your worldview is, and if you project that, that will influence how you think about it. So imagine some people will be enjoying the dating game because they like to play it. They like the ass, and they like the what they get positively more than the negative that they get from it. So these people can enjoy that process, whether that's just ignorance, or they know it and they like the game. So it's either you like the game, know the game and you like the game, or you don't know that it is a game being played at all. So that's the only two, how I see it. There's only two way that you can go about it. It is
I think for
basically
the
like the Matrix, right? Blue pill and red pill. Which one you're gonna go?
uh the pills being what?
The choices of like, okay, do I participate this, as in sort of, because there is a general consensus, what people do on a given social interactions, right? Like,
Yeah.
okay, I go out to the bar, make friends, and this and that, and like, you know, when you don't, when you
So
just do
that's the
it
blue
for the
pill?
sake of it, yeah, that we do it for the sake of it. Oh yeah, this is just social engagement. This is what people do. This is what, is the whole idea, even
Yeah.
with like, oh, it's all about hooking up, finding the right partner, and potentially have children, and then that's it. That's the whole life goal, right? For most people.
Yeah.
Nothing wrong with that, of course. It's normal. But there are also
But
other
what's the red
ways.
pill?
But there's also all the other ways that people would think about what they want out of life, right? Um,
Yeah,
and,
but
and
like
so
society is
so
such a big part of it.
so what I'm
Like,
saying, as is in the blue pill in this instance, is the idea that these people are just going through it because that's kind of the general accepted sort of rationale for why we engage in it, right? Because you're looking for a partner, and this is the fastest way you can do it, and that's what that's the script being written, right? Like the life script for most people is, okay, you grow up, you find a decent
but
job,
that's
and then
just
you,
life in society.
right.
That's
But if
like
you start
what
thinking about
is
what all these actions that you're doing, what it means from a more, I don't know, 4,000 feet view, then it does feel weird. It does feel like, oh,
why?
I'm like, I can see myself doing these things. I can see the
Yeah.
rationale, what will go through the mind for me to do that. But now I realize I'm doing that. But is that the best thing that I did it, right? Because when you go meta,
Mm,
when you go a step beyond, sort of like, if you try to rationalize everything that you do, it's like, I don't know. For me, it's like an out of the body experience where you're like, oh, I see, I'm doing all this stuff for what? What's the reason that I'm doing that? Right? What's the yes, you had the explanation from society, from the general consensus of, okay, this is what you do. For for some people, it's like, oh, a happy life is just, yes, find a great partner with you, and then share that life, which is great. That's a good objective for to reach. But then the question is, what makes you happy, or what is the nature of it, or especially for people who doesn't find the normal route satisfying, or like, why would somebody be like, oh, I don't actually like to be with another person or living with them. Like they like them being by themselves. Why? Some people love family, and more like friends and social interactions. That's how they carry out their life. People have different interests, they do different things. But, the idea being that if you start thinking about what makes it all kind of the reason why, then it's like it's a difficult question, which is the reason why people don't want to think about it. They just want to go through the kind of, oh, just have fun. I mean, what's the nature of fun, right? What's the nature of all this? This is like kind of what we're all what both of us are trying to like what we in our discussions oftentimes this kind of came up. It's like, okay, what's the why? Why are you doing this? Why are you doing that? What's the purpose of this? What's the purpose of that?